Welcome to the Mean Lady Talking Podcast, the tough talking, advice giving show by the not really mean lady, Susan J. Elliott.
Good day, everybody. This is Susan Elliott, host of Mean Lady Talking Podcast, and welcome to episode 53. Before we get started, I have a couple of things to talk about. I realized that on a recent podcast, I was trying to reduce some of the repetitiveness and different things that I said. I wanted to go back and say a few things over, which I don't normally do. And so I did an introduction, then I did the show opening, then I did the second introduction. And what I did was, when I listened to it back to do the show notes, I realized that I had done 3 introductions. And so I re-edited the podcast and found a whole bunch of things that I wanted to change and re-uploaded it and wound up with the same 3 introductions, the things that I went into the podcast to edit out. So I truly do need some editing help one of these days. But I apologize for that. If you are wondering why there's 3 introductions, there's not supposed to be. Anyway, the other thing is that because of my computer transition and coming down with another case of pneumonia, I'm going to push the May boot camp out a bit toward the end of the month. It was supposed to start in the middle. So it's going to start at the end. I have 3 spots left, and I had previously told people to write to Susan@gettingpastyourbreakup.com. I'm not able to configure that to Outlook for some reason, so it would be best if you send it to SusanJE1119@gmail.com. You could even send it here to the podcast, Mean Lady Talking Podcast @gmail.com, or the original email, gpyb.com@gmail.com. And I know that's a weird email address, but that's what it is. Somebody else set that up for me many years ago. Anyway, so if you want to join the May Boot Camp or you want information on it, please send me email and I will send you the registration. The reason that I don't have it out everywhere is because I keep it limited, and if I put it out there, I could get 20 people in a boot camp, and that's just not a good size boot camp. So send me email if you want to join the boot camp. Now, you guys know that most of the time I don't script these podcasts, and tonight's not going to be any different. Sometimes I outline it, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I read over an article that I wrote prior to coming on the podcast, to record the podcast, but most times I don't. Tonight's one of those times where I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and I think that this is really important, and I hope that you bear with me through some of the background stuff that I'm going to go through, because it is really important stuff. I'm working on the new website, and if you want to send email to the podcast, please tell me what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. I've gotten some good email on what I'm now calling the sex show. You guys want a sex show. But if you want any particular answers, let me know. So my next book is going to be called When the Person You Love Doesn't Love You, How to Reject the Rejector, Heal Your Attachment Issues, and Find Your Way to Real Love, which I am shortening to Reject the Rejector. And as many of you know, that's the second book that I wanted to write. And my publisher talked me into getting back out there. And then they pretty much screwed the pooch on getting back out there. And then they wanted to lowball. They made an offer on this book. They really liked the proposal. They really liked the concept. They really liked the idea. And they really lowballed me on the offer. And I just said no, especially in light of the issues that I had with their performance on getting back out there. And so that's going to be coming up soon. I'm going to be announcing a crowdfunding for that. And I hope that you guys back me on this. It's a little bit of trepidation to go off and self-publish, but I really want to do it right. And I've read more than my fair share of self-published books that are complete trash. They need an editor. They need a book cover designer. They need a whole bunch of things that they don't have. So as somebody who's been published by a major publishing house, I know how it's supposed to be done. and how it's not supposed to be done. So I've learned a lot of lessons from being part of that and would like to bring that expertise as well as my writing skills and my experience to the next book. Attachment theory is something that I have studied since the mid-90s. John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, they are core to most of the work that I've done in the grief, rejection, loss, attachment, separation, all of that stuff. And this book is really about how to heal your attachment issues, how to deal with rejection, and how to go on to be with people who won't reject you. So anyway, I'm really excited about finally getting that one out. Now, tonight, I want to tell you a couple of things. One is that when people come onto the Facebook group, the Getting Past Your Breakup Facebook group, we usually ask them a couple of questions, which is, why do you want to join this group? And if they say something like to learn or to help other people or whatever, we usually don't allow them in. We want to be a supportive community to people that are working the Getting Past Your Breakup program, people who are reading the Getting Past Your Breakup book, the Getting Back Out There book, and working through the GPYP workbook, and how to apply all of that to your life. That's what we're there for. We're not there for anything else. We're not a general breakup group. We're not in the business of anything else except trying to help and enhance the experience of somebody who's trying to take the books and the workbook and all the lessons therein and apply it to their own particular situation. That's what we're there for. That's it. Period. End of story. And so we've had our share of new coaches, new people who just want to be a coach and they want to come in and they want to peddle their wares and peddle their book and this and that. And I talked on a couple of podcasts ago about a woman who had self-published her own book, and she was coming into the group and she was arguing with me and she was arguing with the moderator. She was doing all this other stuff. And that's just not what we're there for. We're just not there for that. If you don't answer the questions, both questions, do you agree to read the group guidelines, you can't come in. And if you don't answer both questions, you don't come in. And you have to talk about being somebody who's going through a breakup. You don't necessarily have to say, you're reading the book. Once you get in there, you read the guidelines, you realize what we're all about. We're not a general breakup group. And you come in, and that's absolutely fabulous. But one of the things that somebody wrote a few weeks ago was, I went through a terrible breakup, and I want to help others get through it to become a breakup coach. And I offer a facilitator program for people who want to be a GPYB facilitator, want to learn how to run the groups that I run, the boot camps and what have you, and how to work with clients on the program. And I would love to be able to refer people who come to me when my client list is closed, when the boot camps are closed, and refer them out to other people. So when I was reading his thing originally, I thought maybe that's what it was all about. But he went on to say, I want to see what kind of situations your group members go through. I promise not to spam, but I need to ask a lot of questions. And I thought, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No, no, and no. I didn't answer him. I just rejected him. But I'm about to talk a little bit about how this whole thing went down for me. And it's actually important to what the theme of the podcast is all about. I was looking at one of the original articles on the old blog when the book was coming out, because we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the book, and it's still on Amazon bestseller list, not gotten off of there in 9 years, and I'm really, really excited about that. Thank you so much for all the support. Please show some love to Getting Back Out There. Please go on Amazon, Goodreads. Please review it. Please and give it a few thumbs up and say some nice things about it. It really needs your love. So please do that. That would be very helpful. But somebody had asked me when I was saying that the book was coming out in a few weeks, somebody said, will there be an audio version? And I said, I don't know. It depends on how well it does, I guess. And of course, now in audio, it's on Kindle and all electronic means, and it's been translated into 9 languages. This is success that I never in a million years ever even dreamed of. And my husband, Michael, was terminal when the book was released. He was 3 months away from passing away, but he had been given 3 to 6 months to live. and we were passing the 6-month mark, and I wanted to spend every waking moment that I had with him. So I didn't do book promotion. I didn't do a lot of things when the book came out. So a couple of years later, I started to do some of the publicity that really should have been done, but the book was doing fine even without it. But I just wanted to elevate my profile a little bit and let people know who I was and that I was out there. First, I started doing some websites, and I started doing some articles, and people started interviewing me, and then I started doing some newspaper interviews and some radio interviews, and I did in-studio radio interviews because I'm in New York, and I did both terrestrial radio and satellite radio, Doctors, the Jenny McCarthy Show, things like that. And then I started doing television, and I did a lot of television, and again, New York is local, and it's also national, so I did both national and local shows, and I did some stations multiple times, both local and national. And things started happening, taking shape. Once you're in one place, people kind of recognize you and see you, and then they come to you for other things. Bravo TV always comes to me for quotes and things like that. So my name is out there. It's out there kind of all over the place. And then other people that had books and were doing things like I do, kind of seminars and workshops and things like that, asked me if I would be involved in that, and I said, of course. Catherine Woodward Thomas, who wrote the book Conscious Uncoupling that Gwyneth Paltrow hawked, was doing a big event, and she had asked me to be part of it, and we spoke a few times before, and then we taped an interview, and it went very well. And then there was a few other people that were kind of high-profile people that were not self-published. They were published with traditional publishing. They had some cred. People had quoted them and talked of them, and people that would be asking me to be part of their event, seminar, whatever. Some of them I'd heard of and some of them I didn't, but they all seemed pretty legitimate. And even some of the people who were just trying to get into it and would be very honest with me about that and say, you know, I'm just looking for some, and hope you could help me out and be part of my events, blah, blah, blah. Now, people from Catherine down to the woman that I just talked about, the woman who was new to all of this, they will say, if you want to help promote this event, here's a packet and give it to your readers and listeners, and appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. And you guys know, I mean, I have a newsletter that I put out maybe every 3 months. I'm not one of these people that emails you a lot. I'm not people that take it. I'm not somebody who takes advantage of my readers and my listeners, and I'm not trying to spam you or scam you or do anything. So I don't even promote my own stuff to a certain degree. And sometimes when I've been involved in these other events, I sometimes have promoted them and sometimes I haven't, you know, to be perfectly honest. If I'm busy, I'm busy. And I remember when Catherine's was on, I was working full-time as an attorney for a law firm, and I just didn't really have time to promote it, and nothing was ever said. And all the way down to, again, the last woman that I talked about. And she even did, the last woman did kind of a post-mortem. She did a Google Hangout where people who were involved got to hear her lessons that she learned, which I thought was really generous of her because she was trying to let other people know, if you're thinking about putting an event like this on, this is some of the highs, these are some of the lows, this is some of what we expected, some what we didn't expect. And it was really nice. I really liked it. And I wasn't particularly interested in putting on an event like that, but it was nice to go to the postmortem and to kind of talk things out. And then I started to get these other invitations, and I didn't think too much of it at the time. It just seemed like a normal, random, regular thing. People come up and say, can you talk on this? Can you talk on that? Can we tape an interview, be part of my event, blah, blah, blah. If you want to promote it, here's some discounts for your readers and listeners and blah, blah, blah. During one of them, as some of you know, I have lupus, and my rheumatologist says my disease is very active. And I seem to, like, I have pneumonia right now and pick up things so easily with a compromised immune system. There was a couple of things that were going on in my life at the time, and this woman kept saying, I'm really glad you're part of this, you're really a rock star, blah, blah, blah. And then she sent out the schedule of the event, and you can always tell when these events come on where you are in the lineup says sort of how important you are. It's just like going to a concert. The headliner doesn't come out first. So I noticed that on some of these later events, I was pretty much going into headliner position. And then I got an email a few weeks we taped the interview. And then I got an email a few weeks ahead saying, I'm going to promote this thing. I joined your newsletter mailing list and I didn't see anything. And a lot of people have done a lot of work to put this thing together and I was like, whoa. And like I said, I've done these events for people who have much more legitimacy, much higher visibility, and nobody has ever said anything like this to me. And resend me the stuff, whatever. And then I got sick, and then a few other things went on that I'm not talking about here because that's not what this is about. But then I started getting all of these very similar invitations, and from all these people that I never heard of, and I tried to look them up, and I really didn't know. And it seemed to be a lot of people who had gone through a breakup and now they want to self-publish a book and tell everybody about their breakup and then put on one of these events. And I knew that somewhere, and I don't know where because I just don't have time to really chase this down, nor do I care enough to chase this down. Somewhere there's a marketing person telling people who have coaching to do this, to get a speaker, author, whatever, as part of your event and put them kind of in a headliner position and market around them. And then they all will have these phenomenal email lists. And then you get to take advantage of their email list. There are more people on the internet telling other people how to make money on the internet than there are people making money on the internet. The only people that are making money on the internet are the people that are telling other people how to do it because the other people are running around with all these cockamamie ideas. There's a guy on YouTube who actually says this is how you steal from influencers and stuff like that. He drives me absolutely nuts. My hard work has been pirated and copied and stolen, all this other stuff. It's like if you are such a lazy sack of nonsense that you can't even pull yourself together enough to offer something of worth, why are you stealing from other people? This is just insane. So I figured out that there's some marketeer somewhere, one of these people that go on the internet to tell everybody else how to make money from the internet, and this is their idea. You get these higher profile authors, legitimate authors who've been published by a big publishing house, who have high visibility, and you get them to become part of your event. And then they'll sell it because they're part of their event and they want to sell it to their folks. And then you kind of ride on their coattails. And I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't really need some snarky person coming up to me and saying, oh, a lot of people have put a lot of work into this and you're not doing the work for us. Like, what's wrong with you? It's like, are you listening to what you're saying? You're asking me why I gave you a 20-minute interview to help your event out. Now you're ragging on me for not working to promote your event? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know who these fools are that think that this is the way it's going to be. But I was inundated for a few weeks with this. And then finally I started telling them, like, straight up, I'm not promoting it. Leave me alone. Go away. Don't bother me. Then right after that, right before this guy that came in that said, I went through a breakup and now I want to help other people that are going through, we've all been through breakups. Going through a breakup qualified you to help other people go through a breakup. I would have been helping people at 14. Going through a breakup, it's like what the American Bar Association says about divorce coaches. They understand why people need a divorce coach instead of a divorce lawyer or in addition to a divorce lawyer. And they recognize it as a really good economic idea for people that don't have a lot of money who are proceeding pro se, but they warn people that there's no requirement to call yourself a divorce coach. So please check out your divorce coach. Like, I do divorce coaching. I'm a therapist and I'm an attorney and I'm an author and I know the ins and outs. So I've even helped other lawyers. This is how my whole divorce coaching thing started. Coaching a transactional lawyer who did mergers and acquisitions, has nothing to do with litigation. She was scared. She had very high profile AmLaw 100 law firm doing her divorce, which was a very high worth divorce. She was divorcing a doctor. And I was in the background explaining a lot of stuff to her at the same time counseling her kind of on the emotional level as my therapist hat. So as a divorce coach, I usually put on my attorney hat, my therapist hat, my attorney hat, my therapist hat, back and forth. And she was the one who sort of showed me how that model went with the way she used me on my services. And I thought, if a very successful lawyer from a white shoe law firm can use me in this capacity, I think that people that don't have a lot of money and only need a certain amount of guidance for certain specific issues could use me as well. So the American Bar Association says make sure that your divorce coach has more credentials and more experience than just having been through a divorce. And I really like that caveat because it's true. It could be a therapist, it could be a social worker, it could be a mediator, it could be a parenting coordinator, whatever it is. Whoever you decide to have as your divorce coach, make sure that they have some qualifications more than just they went through a divorce. So anyway, all that aside, so now that you've got all of that there, then we come to the woman who came to me right before this guy who said, I want to ask your group members what situations they're facing in their life and what kind of help they need. And it's like, what? Right before him, there was a woman who self-published a book and she was starting this thing and she wanted to be a breakup coach and The only qualification that she had was that she had been through a breakup that she learned from. And part of what she learned was the GPYB program. That was part of what she learned. And she was impossible. I mean, she was impossible because she was telling me that she learned from the program, but at the same time, and I talked about this a few podcasts ago, she was arguing with me about the program. Now, let's get back to this guy. One of my specialties is that I work with people who are in the aftermath of a breakup with the personality disorders. You guys know that I do a lot on personality disorders. I was an emergency psychiatric clinician for many years, so I have a lot of experience with personality disorders. Not that narcissists and sociopaths wind up in psychiatric services, but their partners usually do. And I have a lot of experience with that. And I have it both as a lawyer and as a therapist and as a divorce coach. And so I have all that. So you can put that in the mix of my expertise. So when I offer the facilitator training, but you have to agree to certain things. You have to take a boot camp with me. You have to sign up for a certain amount of facilitator training during the boot camp and then after the boot camp. And you have to basically work with the program with your clients. And then if you're successful and I don't have a boot camp going, or I don't have a group going or whatever, I will send people to you. And then there's people who want to do this in person. They want to do these groups in person. And I did the boot camps in person. And they're very successful and they're very nice. And one person who wants to use it with her church. And another person wants to use it in another group that she has, a group of women. And there are different people that want to use the program and they want to learn how to use the program to work with their clients now. When I was in psychiatric services, we had a lot of frequent flyers, people who were in the psychiatric milieu who were playing games and doing all this nonsense, and I would have to cut through the bullshit and kind of deal with them. But we also had very, very serious and sincere and difficult cases. One of the leading causes, if not the leading cause of suicide, is a breakup. It's serious, serious business. I was working emergency services one Christmas Eve, and I was called to the emergency room to counsel this young woman. She had been leaving her relationship, and she told her fiance, they were living together, she told him that she was going to do Christmas with her family, he could do Christmas with his family, and she'd be moving out right after Christmas. And he was just devastated. She came home from Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. She opened the apartment door, and he was there hanging, and he had killed himself. And somebody who kills himself in a gesture like that, it's a very, very angry gesture. Very angry. But that story, as extreme as it seems, as horrible as it seems, as unusual as it seems, it's not unusual. It's just not. Dealing with people after a breakup is not something you should enter into lightly. It's not something you should say, oh, well, you know what? I went through a breakup and I think I'm a pretty good coach. I can kind of talk to people. I think I'll do that. It's just this cavalier attitude. These people going into these things, these people using people that do have the knowledge and do have the know-how and do have the platform. Oh, let me use you to further my legitimacy, because if you're involved with me, I must be okay. So you put your stamp of approval on me and you become part of my event. And then other people will come to me for coaching. Doesn't that sound great? You have no idea what you're getting into. No idea at all. And it's horrible. I'm really angry at the people who decide, well, I went through a breakup and I changed my life, and I'm going to tell other people how to do the same. It's more than that. It's a serious, serious business. And this isn't about marketing genius. It's not about marketing savvy. It's not about, oh, let me put a few good coaches together and good authors together. And then I can say, look, I put on this event and all these fabulous people came and spoke and did interviews for me. Now I can teach you. It's not quite that way. I appreciate anybody who wants to reach out to others in this space, but it's a serious space to be in. It's not about, let me figure out how to fly on the coattails of other people. Let me hitch my rickety old wagon to your star. It's not about that. Some of these marketing ploys, some of these marketing strategies, they don't take into consideration the population of people that you're dealing with, that you're talking to, that are entrusting their broken heart to. They are entrusting a broken heart, a crushed soul. And you're going, well, let me figure out what kind of problems do you have? Because I'll figure out what kind of problems you have, and then I'll figure out how to help you solve those problems. I mean, GPYB is based on my own recovery, yes. But there was a lot more to it at one point. There was a lot more things I did and a lot more things I chased. But this is what worked when I started bringing it out to other people. I did a lot of volunteer work for a very long time. I worked hard at researching. I spent many, many nights in the library researching John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, all of the grief theorists from Freud forward. People know that that's my work, and that's been stolen more times than I care to talk about. And when I work with a client with boot campers, I usually have really good instincts as to how to kind of point people in the right direction to do the kind of work they need to do. And when they tell me about their ex, I could kind of pinpoint, exactly what this relationship was all about and exactly what kind of work you need. And not just the GPYB program, but I usually recommend other books and other work and other this and other that. And it's very instinctual for the most part. But yes, my counseling style changed from when I went to graduate school. And before I did it, I really didn't get the whole Rogerian concept of sitting in empathic silence. I really didn't get that. When I first studied Carl Rogers in psychological theory in graduate school, I thought, this is a bunch of crap. Like, I want to tell people, say, no, you do this and that work. I could not do it. And I've talked about this before. When I was in graduate school, I would watch people on their videos with their clients, and the client would look like they were about to have a catharsis. They were about to start crying, and the therapist would interrupt. And what I saw were therapists in training stopping a client from going into their grief because the therapists themselves had not done their own grief work. And they were talking about trained therapists. We're talking about people working in the field. I was working in a computer company. I was working in a computer company as a software engineer, and they were working as therapists all day. And yet they couldn't handle their own clients' grief. And when I went into practice, there are a lot of therapists out there, therapists that became licensed social workers, licensed this, licensed that, PhDs, the whole 9 yards, who are uncomfortable with a client's true pain. It's not an easy thing to sit with. It's not an easy thing to do. I've counseled women coming out of incredibly abusive relationships with narcissists and sociopaths, thinking there was something wrong with them. Working with the partners, working with the ex-partners of people who are personality disordered is part of my specialty. It's something I do. It's something I do well. But I also know how to do it. When I was working with those two women, one with a true narcissist, true overt narcissist, and one with a true sociopath, I couldn't do much for the rest of the day because I really had to sit with them and listen to incredibly difficult stuff. And that one woman spent weeks coming to see me and not saying a word, just sobbing on the couch, just sobbing. I don't know a lot of therapists, trained therapists, who could have sat with her and just let her do that. And when she left me a candle and a card on Christmas Eve, months after the last time I saw her, and she thanked me from the bottom of her heart, was one of the nicest things that ever happened. But you don't get that if you don't know how to get there. This woman was in shambles. She was bleeding from every emotional pore in her soul, in her heart, in her soul. You can't take people like that in untrained hands and just say, come on, are we going to talk or not? You've been here 3 weeks and all you do is cry. And I'm not saying that's the way these people are going to talk to him, but what would you do? Can you sit there? Can you sit there for an hour and listen to her sob and do nothing else? Because if you can't, this is not the business for you. And not that everybody does that. You will get that, and you have to get that, and you have to let people cry, and you have to sit there in empathic silence and just let them cry. And if you haven't done your own grief work, and I'm not talking about a breakup, I'm not talking about one breakup and poof, you're done. I'm talking about seriously going back through all of your losses and dealing with them and seeing where the hell you are. This is not a field to take lightly, and it's not something that you pick up because some freaking marketing guru told you that this is a good way to make money. Oh, hey, here's an idea. Why don't you take all of these people who work with broken souls and bring them into your tent and then have a circus and advertise that the real clowns are here. And then the next time you have the circus, you don't need those clowns. You can be the clown. It's nonsense. It's crazy. It's berserk and it's bizarre. And one of the things that I would like to caution people about is if you're thinking about doing this kind of work, yes, it's a calling. I've tried to give it up for 15 years now and I can't do it. I never expected getting past your breakup to be as successful as it's been. And I'm very grateful that it was, even though I wasn't able to promote it in the least when it first came out. And I'm grateful that it has remained where it is. When I was talking about the interviews and talking about you do newspaper, you do radio, you do television, when you do one, something happens, something happens, something happens. It's like people pick up your name and then this person picks up your name and that person picks up your name. When Kim Kardashian got together with Kanye West, Ray J came out with a song called I Hit That First. And I somehow got this inquiry from the New York Post asking me to comment on, was this saying that Ray J wasn't over Kim and or was it smack at Kanye? And I mean, all the stuff that I truly don't care about. But I gave them the quotes that they wanted, and it ran in the Sunday New York Post, and then I was inundated, and not just inundated with more interviews for television, for radio, but people invited me to be part of a reality show. We're going to pitch a reality show. We'd like to have you as the resident expert. We'll sign you in as associate producer. And there were quite a few ventures like that where people were asking me, and some people got to the pilot stage and things like that. One group was going on Dragon's Den in Canada. And if any of you have seen Shark Tank here in the United States, Robert Herjavec and Kevin O'Leary actually came from Dragon's Den in Canada. And Shark Tank started as Dragon's Den, either in Canada or UK. I love the Dragon's Den more than I like the Shark Tanks. And it's Shark Tank in Australia. It's Dragon's Den in Ireland. I've seen almost all of them. I love the UK and Canada one. I think they're really, really good. But these people were going to pitch this whole breakup thing on Dragon's Den in Canada. And they wanted me to be part of the whole kit and caboodle. And I said, if you want to put me in as part of the pitch, you can, because they didn't have any expertise in this. But I said I would reserve judgment until I saw the final product, which they never showed me, but they did go on the show and they didn't get a deal. And I don't even know if their pitch ever aired, because they do a lot of pitches and a lot of them don't air. Then there was this other guy who was very high profile, very, very high profile, not in breakup or anything, but he was a writer for a major newspaper, and he was able to find angel investors, and they wanted to do this whole breakup thing. And he kept telling me, this was when Matt Lauer was on the Today Show, and he kept saying, I want you and me to go on the Today Show with Matt Lauer, and we're going to pitch this thing. And I was actually on a conference call with one of the angel investors. And I mean, he really did have people really, really interested in this. And then he disappeared off the face of the earth. And I thought, did they send him on special assignment to Afghanistan? He's in a tank somewhere. What's going on? I didn't know. He resurfaced like a year later, and he got in touch with me. I was just like, I'm not really interested in people that just flake out. They ask me for their participation, read this, read that, and then all of a sudden they're gone. I'll lend my expertise to something that's not bizarre and strange and that actually isn't the Real Housewives of who knows the hell where. But to kind of take people's readers and group members and listeners and say, oh, can I pick their brains? I want to counsel them. I want to coach them. But first I have to know what's wrong with them. And then how are you going to figure out how to tell them how to get right? Like, how are you going to do that? I'm cautioning my listeners to please beware of false gurus, of these idiot people that look at coaching, especially breakup coaching, as some sort of get-rich-quick scheme, because it's certainly not. I haven't gotten rich off of it. I don't ever expect to get rich off of it. If you know a way that I could get rich off of it, please let me know. Even with all these pitches and all this television, all these radios and all this newspaper, I'm not rich off of this. And I make a hell of a lot less money than I could as an attorney. So I want you guys to be safe. And one of the reasons why I'm so stringent about the group guidelines in the Facebook group is because I want the group members to be safe. That's like my number one thing. But beware of these people. They are out there. And the only qualification they have for helping you get through a breakup or grief or whatever the hell it is that they've been through a breakup. Big deal? Who cares? Don't fall for this nonsense. They're out there. And it really upsets me. And marketing gurus, if you're out there and you're trying to tell these people to get, legitimate coaches, it doesn't have to be breakup coaching, it could be life coachings or authors or this, that. Pull them into your event and then they'll give you legitimacy. Won't that be great? No. Stop it. It's not okay. These are people's lives you are playing with. Knock it off. If I see one more friggin' person on YouTube or Facebook or someplace say, oh, here's how to get rich on the internet, I'm gonna punch my laptop like right across the room. These are people's lives you're playing with. If you don't know anything about breakups more than how you got through yours, you're not qualified to do this work. I want you to know that you're going to have to deal with the aftermath of a breakup with a personality disorder. You're not going to know whether to shit or go blind. Because every single one of them is, even though they're textbook same, the people, the way they affect others can be textbook different. What are you going to do with the woman who broke up with her fiance, came home to see him hanging from the ceiling on Christmas Eve? What the hell are you going to do about that? You think you're going to read that in my Facebook group? You're not. You're not. And you're not going to poach my members, and you're not going to present them with a whole bunch of gobbledygook because you don't know shit from Shinola, and you're just trying to make a buck on something that you learned how to get past. A breakup, big friggin' deal. There has to be more substance to you than that. And if there's not, you should be ashamed of yourself. And if you don't know what problems people go through after a breakup, then you're not qualified to do this work. And the reason why I talked about the newspaper and the television and the shows and the this and the that was just to explain that despite all of that expertise that I actually do have, there are things I learn all the time. I do research all the time. I just revamped. I've been teaching affirmations since 1993. That's almost 26 years I've been teaching affirmations, and I just revamped the whole damn thing because I've been studying all these years, and it was time. I have 25 years of experience doing this. I have 15 years of experience in the legal world. I'm a grief therapist. I've done my own work. If you haven't done any more work other than getting through one breakup, you haven't done your work. And you are not qualified to help other people do it. I'm sorry, you're just not. Think long and hard before you come up with a brilliant brainstorm that, oh, I've got through a breakup and I feel good about myself, and now I'm going to teach other people how to do it because this is how my stuff gets stolen. But it's like, you can take all my stuff that you want, but when you're working with people, What are you going to do? Run to page 44? When somebody says something, you don't know what the hell they're talking about? Oh, let me see. I don't flip through books when I'm talking to clients and boot campers. I've done my own work, and there's people that are in this field that are licensed social workers, licensed therapists, certified coaches, this and that still haven't done their work. You're not going to get very far doing your work with them. If you have a therapist, that therapist should have a therapist. Or have been through therapy, just know something about something other than, oh yeah, I'm a coach now. I'm a coach now, and I'm going to take this person's course over here and get rich. You're headed in the wrong direction. Stop doing it. Honestly, I don't care about those people. What I care about are the people that they want to prey on. And they don't see it as preying. They see it as helping. But narcissists don't see what they do as bullshit either. Take the blinders off, people. Take the blinders off and get honest about who you are and what you're really qualified to do. And if you think that getting rich quick off of broken hearts is the way to go, I can assure you it is not. And if somebody hurts themselves because you had no idea what to do with them, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to continue on. Even with all of my success, television, radio, all my degrees, all my this, all my that, I still have to work at this every single day just to stay afloat. Just to stay afloat. And if it's not that easy for me, it is certainly not going to be easy for you. And if you need to steal my stuff in order to try to make it better for you, knock yourself out. But when you fall flat on your face, don't come running to me, but please. It's like the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm. That should be the oath in coaching, do no harm. And if you're going at this thing half-cocked, you are going to do harm. Don't do it. Don't do it. And for my listeners and for my readers, please check out these people before you go, oh yeah, this person has a group and that person has a group and they wrote this book, and even though every other sentence is grammatically incorrect and everything's misspelled and they couldn't even get an editor for this stupid self-published book, I'll go with them. Please don't. Don't go with them. Okay, this is Susan Elliott signing off, and I hope to give a more upbeat podcast when we come back. But anyway, that's been on my mind for a few days. I will let you guys know how everything goes, and take care, guys. And hey, beware false prophets. They are out to do evil. Okay, and if you're a false prophet, please, please, please. False prophets should not profit. Okay, thank you. Talk to you guys later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.